Welcome to the Frontier Podcast, where we take the internet's best tech articles and transform them into audio so that you can enjoy them on the go. We post new episodes every Monday, Tuesday, and Wednesday morning. Be sure to subscribe to our channels on YouTube and iTunes, or visit us at tfpodcast.io. If you would like to help support our show, we'd really appreciate it. Visit our Patreon and donate. All of those links will be listed below. Today's episode is brought to you by Presence Media. They are a Colorado-based SEO and web design firm. Presence Media creates beautifully modern websites that effectively attract new customers for their clients. Visit them at presencemediadenver.com. That link will be listed below. Today's article is written by Richard Enlow. Richard is a product designer specializing in user experience, or UX, and interaction design, IXD, with a firm grasp of visual and user interface design. He is a VR enthusiast, and it definitely comes through in his writing. Today's episode is titled, Why Virtual Reality Matters. It's a bite-sized piece that explores technology in the past, the current potential, and where virtual reality is headed. If you'd like to read the original article, including the embedded images, you can find it on medium.com. We'll have that link listed below. Why virtual reality matters. I had my first experience with virtual reality, or VR, while playing with a friend's development version of the Oculus Rift headset. Honestly, my first time was a pretty jolting experience. There was this definite mismatch between the virtual reality where I was moving and the actual reality where I was very much sitting still. It was very close to what I felt when getting carsick as a child. Even through the nauseousness, I could see that this technology had the opportunity to change the world. To most people, VR still only means immersive 3D gaming. And while I love playing games in VR myself, the potential of the medium stretches far past games. What has me so interested in virtual reality is the promise of practical applications that help people to do better work, learn faster, and even be more connected to others. Practical VR application. During a recent meetup in San Francisco, I ran across James Blaha, founder of Vivid Vision, a VR startup. James suffers from a vision disorder known as strabismus, commonly known as lazy eye. The condition is caused by abnormal vision development early in life. It leads to loss of depth perception as eye strength becomes more and more asymmetrical. For adults, there was no surefire treatment for his condition. Then one day, James came across research explaining that with training, the weaker eye could become stronger and alleviate the condition. Using a VR headset, he came up with the first prototype of what would eventually become Vivid Vision. And it worked. Over time, James began seeing the 3D world that others saw. A year and 1,000+ patients later, the company has seen some amazing success with their clients. The results have caught the attention of researchers at the University of California in San Francisco, where the application and its use is currently being studied. The state of VR. The popularity of the technology is exploding, and companies the likes of Google, HTC, and Facebook are investing time and resources into experimenting with how far they can go in this new digital frontier. We're in the early days of the consumerization of VR. Even with the technology becoming more and more accessible, there are still lots of people who haven't heard about it, and others who view it as mostly a gimmick. Learning from the past. But let's step back. I find that often the best way to talk about the future is by talking about the past. So let's start there. In 1997, Apple Computers released the first consumer microcomputer, the Apple II. At first, these personal computers were seen as mostly a gimmick. We hadn't figured out what to do with the technology, and the majority of people buying the machines were game players and hobbyists. It wasn't until 2 years later, with the release of VisiCalc, a spreadsheet application, that the usefulness of the personal computer was extended past the small niche audience. Accounting was able to be done faster and more accurately within the application. VisiCalc was an instant hit, and sales of the Apple II computers grew exponentially. It helped to raise the consumer consciousness. The computer went from being a gimmick to a useful, transformative device. Designers and developers moved fast to imagine, what can we do next? Exploring VR's potential. The computing age launched us into the world of screens that we live in today, and our ability to more deeply interface with computing technologies. Now with VR, we ourselves are the interface into those worlds. And with that ability comes fuller immersion, deep mental involvement, and the feeling of presence, the sense as if you exist in another space. These can be quite powerful tools. At Stanford's Virtual Human Interaction Lab, they've been working to understand the human-VR relationship. In one experiment, they found that when a participant shared space with a 65-year-old avatar of themselves, it actually prompted participants to save more for retirement. In another example of the possibility of the medium, filmmaker Chris Melk, in collaboration with the United Nations, worked to see how VR might help people empathize with the refugee experience. Together, they created Clouds over Sidra, an experience that allows the participant to walk in the shoes of inhabitants of a Syrian refugee camp. The feeling is uncanny. Refugees look into your eyes as you pass, and it's a compelling experience. Experiences like these have led others to describe VR as the ultimate empathy-building machine. Designing for virtual reality. Quote, VR technology has taken a big step forward, but the thinking behind VR experiences has not. Designing for a flat screen and designing for an immersive environment are two fundamentally different challenges, end quote. Matt Sundstrom on his work with VR. As a designer by trade, I'm passionate about creating intentional, usable, useful, and delightful experiences that fit within the feasibility of technology and the abilities of the users. While the technology may change, a designer's work stays constant, and through activities like user research, prototyping, ideation, and design thinking, they tackle a wide variety of problems across a multitude of products and services. In this new world of VR, this type of design practice becomes essential. But how do we get started? Play in the technology. If you haven't had a chance to experience modern VR, you should really start there. Top-tier VR headwear, or head-mounted displays, HMDs, like Facebook's recently acquired Oculus Rift and HTC's Vive, provide the fullest experiences. These top-tier experiences come at a cost. You'll need a pricey HMD and a powerful PC to run them. But that doesn't mean that this technology is hard to come by. In October of this year, the release of the PlayStation VR will remove the need for an expensive PC. Also, Google Cardboard can give you a taste. The device is a typical Google approach, something that is very accessible. You're just a smartphone and a pair of cardboard glasses away from virtually walking with dinosaurs and freaking your grandparents out. Samsung's Gear VR ups the experience for under $100 and provides access to a sizable number of games and experiences. Read the research. VR, while being seen as brand new, is actually having a resurgence. Initial VR technology has been around since the 1960s. It's also been studied extensively in places like the University of Washington's Human Interface Technology Lab and Stanford University's Virtual Human Interaction Lab. Extend what you know. At its core, the principles of human-computer interaction are consistent across technologies. Sure, not everything you know for screen design will translate one-to-one, but exploration is the key part of a designer's process. Take what you know about interaction design, human-centered design, and user experience, and see what holds up and what needs more thought. Use the tools of the trade. Start experimenting right now. 3D engines like Unity or web libraries like 3.js are a core part of VR development and are available for free. If you want to do anything interactive, you'll have to play around with the code to get it done, or work with a developer who knows a language like C#. 3D modeling software is the new Sketch or Photoshop. Look at industry standard tools like 3D Studio Max, Autodesk, $180 a month, or powerful open source projects like Blender, Blender Foundation, free. The one tool that stays constant is the old-fashioned pen and paper. Sketch as often as possible. What the future holds. The industry as a whole is young and we're still learning. We can't even imagine what the true potential of VR could look like. We're still creating the patterns and figuring out what works and what doesn't. And that's what I find so exciting about this space. And we're not alone. Smart and passionate people are starting to experiment and help to define the direction VR takes. Strong VR communities in Portland, Boston, San Francisco, and other cities pack hundreds into rooms to learn and share their experiences and work. There is a real passion here. There is a community. And I'm looking forward to what the VR space will be like 20 years from now. Thanks for listening. You can find more episodes just like this at tfpodcast.io. We post new episodes every Monday, Tuesday, and Wednesday morning. That link will be listed below. Be sure to subscribe to our channels on YouTube and iTunes, or visit us at tfpodcast.io. If you would like to help support our show, we'd really appreciate it. Visit our Patreon and donate. All of those links will be listed below. Again, thanks to Richard Enlow. You can find more of his writing on medium.com. That link will also be listed below. And thank you to our sponsor of today's episode, Presence Media. You can visit them at presencemediadenver.com. That link will also be listed below. Thanks for listening.